There we go. Thank you, Linda Painter.
Hmm.
Just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. This is the fourth in our Whole Health Transformation with BeFit series. And this is part of a 5-week group coaching session that we have done with my partner in nurse coaching, Marcia Smith, who is also on this call. And hopefully, Marcia will weigh in. We have one more wrap up session next week, so you guys are not off the clock yet. So today we're going to dive in and we're going to do a little review. We started with just kind of an understanding of what BeFit is in the whole health model, and we kind of transition from there to how to optimize the fuel, the food, the drinks that we're consuming when we're using BeFit as a whole health supplement. And then, Marcia, you did a phenomenal job last week with Power of the Mind and mindfulness in eating. And one of the things that BeFit does really well is helps us to be more mindful about our food choices, not as hungry for sweets and treats. And so today we're going to really focus on movement, which many of you guys know is my passion. And we're going to talk about just harnessing the power of movement for optimal well-being. And it's really not about just be fit, it's about just being human, right? Because we know, many of us know that movement is one of those core principles, just like sleep and eating, and it's holistic health, but through effective movement strategies. And I've been in this field for a number of years. We're still learning more and more and more. There's more science. But tonight, obviously this could be like a whole semester class. We're just going to focus on kind of the foundations of whole health. What is it? What is the role of movement? And then I really want to share some of the insights from the astronauts program, which introduced me to the value of strength training years ago. We're going to talk about different types of movement. I'm going to ask you guys to weigh in on what you love to do. We're going to talk about some innovative approaches to movement and some practical strategies for whole health transformation, which I just got off the phone with CEO Angie Thompson, and she said the best part for her is seeing these transformations, seeing people transform, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So, starting with the foundations of whole health and the role of movement, you have seen this whole health wheel many, many times. I love this wheel. It's given me language on the components of health. But when we define what whole health is, it's really holistic wellness. It's focusing on integrating all aspects of well being, including the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the social health. Zalise is a private company that provides science-proven wellness solutions through ancient plants. BeFit is one of those, launched on June 2nd. We have a lot of videos and information. We're not going to go into a lot of the details on that tonight, but this approach is really beyond disease treatment, which is what Western medicine is focused on. This approach emphasizes vitality and balance and prevention rather than just waiting for illness to happen and then dealing with it then. And so, as we all know, we are all using BeFit as a whole health supplement, which provides a tool for better energy, a more ordered and mindful eating, and really not just a product intended to do all the heavy lifting, no pun intended, of weight loss. And so, this is a paragraph that I had a little assistance in writing because I have a new friend. His name is Chat. He's a robot, and I told Chat, like Chat has gotten to know me. We've had a lot of conversations, and Chat knows how I feel about movement. And I told Chat, I'm going to give him credit for this paragraph because I've put so much into Chat about movement. We've talked about it a lot. And so what this is just, the value of movement is really not about a supplement. It's not about BeFit. It's the fact that our world has become sedentary and our bodies are designed for movement. So it's a fundamental mismatch. And far more than just a tool for weight loss or for athletic achievement, movement is the cornerstone of basic human health. It's the engine that drives the cardiovascular system, it's the architect that builds our bones and muscles, and the key that unlocks our mental clarity and our emotional well-being. That's where the whole health component, it is all integrated. It's really prioritizing movement isn't a luxury or a chore. It's a non-negotiable act of self-preservation. And it's essential for a vibrant, pain-free, and long life. It's the most powerful tool we have to take control of our health and reclaim our natural vitality. And I'm not going to go into tons of data on what movement does, but just the summary: it improves heart function, circulation, it reduces risks of cardiovascular disease, it sustains energy, it reduces risks of sedentary lifestyle like metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, all those chronic diseases of aging. It boosts metabolism, increases muscle strength, supports overall physical health, enhances brain function, promotes mental clarity, and emotional resilience. So we are so grateful that we have the ability to move, and it is foundational. But this is something you may or may not have heard, is that when the astronauts in the 70s went into space, the scientists learned some really important information about what happens in a zero gravity environment. And I was introduced to a book called Designed to Move by Joan Vernikos. And she was a scientist in the NASA space program who really monitored the astronauts. And it was really interesting to see that they aged much more rapidly than aging happens on Earth. They lost muscle, they lost bone density, they lost cardiovascular fitness. They could not stand up when they came back from prolonged space travel. And so the point of that is not that we're going to have to worry about going to space. The point of that is what scientists have proven is that basic sitting mimics the weightless environment of space. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what do we need, what happens when we sit prolonged, because we know sitting is the new smoking. And so we know that muscle mass is reduced, and we lose a significant amount of muscle mass. That happens through aging anyway. But when we are sedentary and we don't take stand breaks, walk breaks, then that happens at a much faster rate. We lose bone density because of sitting and bed rest, and that increases fracture risk. We also really the whole body just deconditions cardiovascularly, metabolically. Our blood sugar is not as effectively controlled. And so now some of the changes in the space program are they have had to add exercise and different kinds of exercise specifically suited so the astronauts don't lose their entire body when they go into space. And so this is a no-brainer. The recommendations have largely come to not just regular physical activity, but specifically strength training. And we're going to talk about that. But what I thought was really interesting is the importance of minimizing prolonged sitting. The new recommendation is that if you're sitting longer than 30 minutes, you need to stand up and move around. You need a level change. And whether that's, chair squats or a walk or a burpee or a jumping jack or something in between, beyond 30 minutes of sitting is harmful for your health. And so the book also recommends creating spaces that encourage movement and safe walking, and advocates enjoyable activities. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But very important to know that it is a risk to sit longer than 30 minutes. And we'll tell Zalise that when we have our next meeting. So when we think about movement, there's two major categories. And Marcia and I had this conversation the other day. One of those categories is called NEAT, and that is just an acronym for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It just means the heat that we generate from just moving in a non-exercise way. So it would be like fidgeting, walking, anything that's outside of structured exercise, but it helps to boost overall calorie burning, and it enhances metabolic health over time. So some examples are, walking somewhere instead of texting, housework, gardening, standing meetings, things like that, where you're not really exercising, but you are moving. And here's what's interesting is somebody who maximizes their NEAT, their movement during the day, can vary by 1,000 calories with somebody who does not and who preserves that. So we don't want to underestimate getting a parking spot farther away. All those things really qualify for NEAT. And we count that by steps. And so most phones have a step tracker. Some watches have step trackers. And daily movement patterns, we monitor that to see like how many steps do we really need for total health. And a lot of people don't realize that 1 mile is about 2,000 steps. And so we used to think 10,000 steps a day was kind of the magic number. That's now been shown to be more than we really need. And so the general goal is anywhere between 7 and 9,000. Obviously, for weight control, we're going to need higher step counts and a brisker pace. But they say, first see where your movement goals are right now, see what you're doing, and then you can add about 1,000 steps a day. That's about a half a mile. And you can also try your hand at something called Japanese walking, which is fast walk 3 minutes and recovery walk 3 minutes. And we alternate that. And it's really been shown to have a lot of impact on cardiovascular system and the parameters that we monitor for positive change in movement. And then the other category is the intentional movement approaches, where we really kind of design and think about this as exercise. And as I mentioned, the strength training earlier, when I first read about the astronauts program in space, the number one recommendation for those of us who are aging, and that's really considered a disease, believe it or not, especially women, our bones demineralize once we hit menopause. And if we don't do something about it, we will really lose bone mass, lose muscle mass. It's called sarcopenia. And so really the number one recommended intentional exercise for age 50 and up is strength training. And that can be with weights, dumbbells, cables, bands, body weight. There's a lot of ways to move your body against resistance. And those strength exercises build muscle, they build bone and balance, and they increase strength and overall physical resilience. We have seen so much data in this area. It's great for really those muscles are like sugar sponges. For people who have blood sugar issues, lifting weights can be a tremendous aid for managing blood sugar. We also see lifting weights twice a week can slow brain aging by up to 10 years. So something that we really need. If you're human and you're aging, then you need to add strength training to your overall whole health regime. And aerobics, all of us know what aerobic movement is: cardiovascular health, improved mental health, increased stamina, weight loss. But examples that are engaging the larger muscles, like walking, running, biking, aerobic dance, swimming, those things that kind of make you breathless. And we love doing those as well. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But mind-body connection, if you've not ever tried these are movements that foster mental focus and relaxation. They connect your body with breath and promote physical and psychological well-being. And some examples are yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, meditation, and Qigong, which is very interesting. I had the opportunity to experience all of these when I was the director of whole health at Walton Family Whole Health and Fitness, and really have seen that each of them have a distinct benefit that I highly recommend that you try at least once before you rule them out. And so here's time for me to hear from you. And I want to ask you to use the chat feature, which is at the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on your computer. But I want to know, what are your favorite ways to move that also bring you joy? And what type of movement have you done to optimize your BeFit results? So you can type those in the chat, and I'm going to pause here for just a minute to see what you guys are sharing with me. Because I see Debbie Ray, she's out there posting her walking results. Marsha Smith just told me about her walk today, did a nice live when she was out and about. Awesome. So Jenny Todd, walking 4 miles, listening to positive recordings. That is awesome. Chair exercises. Susan Everett says walk with hills to get the cardio. Like it. Judy Baker, chair exercises, balance exercises. And Linda tells us what Randall is doing. Randall is doing strength training with dumbbells. Good job, Randall. Gene Workmeister and Hal Henson cut grass. That's very good. Debbie says walking 10,000 steps. Let's see, that's 8-pound free weights for arms and squats, now incorporating Pilates, which I have loved in the past. Marcia says hiking is my favorite. I added swimming with resistance tether for upper arm strength. You guys are awesome. Why are they called dumbbells? Good question, Linda. Only when Randall uses them. No, I'm just teasing. Mary Barton loves walking. My favorite with praise music, studies, and dogs. Grateful the heat has eased up. So those are great responses. Thank you for that. Excellent work on that. So let's advance this slide here. So we're going to talk about some of the innovative approaches that we've seen really working well, especially for people who feel like they're plateauing for any reason, feel like, I've, been doing BFit for a while and I'm just not really seeing a whole lot of changes in the scale. And one of those is what's called a weighted vest. And in fact, Jennifer DeMay, who's part of our team in Northwest Arkansas, she just told me yesterday that she bought a weighted vest and she started adding that. It really just adds weight, usually starting with 5 to 10 pounds, so that when you're walking or you're doing movement, it enhances the demands on your skeleton and it improves muscular strength and supports bone density. So again, we usually recommend that we start small on that, follow the guidelines and advance that slowly, but it can really add a lot of calorie burn to your overall workout. And then this is an area that I adore. Like, it is really some of the most joyous occasions I've had have been in group exercise. And if you've never ever tried group exercise before, that just means that you're going to find a group of people that are doing some type of movement. It could be walking, it could be in a studio, it could be anything, but it's a group of people. And I read a book. Let's see if you can see this, called The Joy of Movement. And I can't see with my screensaver on, but it's called The Joy of Movement by Kelly McGonigal. And it explained to me what happens when there's a dance song and a group of people all doing the same moves together. And they've built this sense of community over time. And there's a sense of joy in that space that she refers to as collective joy. And I've experienced that, and we've really built community here. We call it the Whole Health Collective around that concept, because it really does create community. It really increases cohesion, and then we get the added physical activity benefits, the endorphins, the strengthening, and then also strengthening those community bonds. And then when we exercise together, we build accountability, we encourage those connections, and it turns really working out into a much more enjoyable experience. We laugh that we do hard things together, because when you're doing things like strength training and high intensity interval training and things that maybe are not as fun, then doing them together can really be a beautiful thing. And I see some chats here. Let's see. Okay, Rhonda Holmes. Thank you, Rhonda. My favorite is ballet movement. I love it. What I do is strength exercises for physical therapy. Debbie Ray loves her 12-pound weighted vest for a 2-mile walk. Debbie, how long have you been using your weighted vest? And Linda says the body is used to our weight, so it's not hard work for the body, whereas the weighted vest challenges the body. Absolutely. Things that you can add to your walk, really, really helpful. So thank you for those comments. Just 1.5 months. All right. Thank you for that. So collective joy. So if you've not tried group exercise, that's something I recommend for many reasons. But how many of you guys have tried pickleball? Narsa, I see you. I can't see everybody on screen, but it's one of the fastest growing sports for people over 50, and it can be played from people of all ages. So it's got a wide appeal, and it combines elements of tennis, badminton, and other sports, making it really super easy to learn and play. And I know we have several new courts here in Farmington. So I talked to Jennifer DeMay the other day. She's gone to a single group that they are starting to do pickleball. So it's a great way to connect with other people. And so those are just some really fast ideas of ways that you can add activity, group involvement to your life. So a couple of the practical strategies, really, and this is a couple of points I want to bring up just in having worked with people for many, many years to help them to optimize their health, to help them lose weight. burning 100 calories is harder than we think. And so people tend to overestimate the amount of calories they're burning and underestimate the amount of calories they're eating. And that is just generally the equation. So we have to like familiarize ourselves that if you're trying to burn 100 calories, then there's a couple ways to do it. But if you're going to walk, you're going to have to brisk walk for 20 minutes to burn 100 calories. That's a lot. That's a lot. If you want to do it faster, then try jump roping for 10 minutes before you die, because jump roping is a lot more higher exertion. You can Google how to burn 100 calories. There's, gardening, there's all sorts of ways, but it's just, you got to be aware of the fact that, the older we get, the less metabolic engine we have, unless we're strength training and building muscle. And, there's chores like vacuuming and gardening. And, the lower the intensity, the longer the time it takes to burn 100 calories. And then the other thing that is not fun to talk about, but is a reality is for women, is the metabolic changes that happen in menopause. And we don't love those, but we're grateful to be alive. And what we see happen is because of the decline in menopause, which is a metabolic hormone, that it declines. When we hit menopause, we conserve 100 calories a day in menopause. I mean, that is a very large number. So if you think about it, so I hit menopause, let's say at the beginning of the month, and then I'm not burning 100 calories, but I'm eating the same, my activity is the same, I'm going to accumulate 3,000 calories by the end of the month. That is almost a pound of body weight. So I have worked a lot with women who are hitting this, this point in life where they're like, why am I gaining weight? I haven't made any changes in how I'm eating. I'm eating the exact same things. We're also losing muscle mass. All of us are. And that's a very significant hit to our metabolism. And so when you're strength training, you can add that muscle mass back, and there's formulas to how to calculate that. But it's generally 30 to 50 calories per pound of muscle that we add in our body. And so if you're just adding a pound of muscle, then you're going to burn more calories at rest. And so obviously these physiological changes, just knowing where you are in your life cycle, we have to factor those in. And when you're, starting a product like BeFit, we want to be mindful of all these things and factor them in and say, hey, I might need to make more than one change in my life in order to get the best results of these. So mindful eating and supplementation become really, really important to have that conversation with someone who can help you. And so this is kind of the traditional recommendation for weight loss for individuals. And, sometimes it feels a little depressing because they're really asking us to do a lot. And so for health, just general health, this has kind of always been the guideline. It's really what they say 150 to 300 minutes a week, which sounds like a heck of a lot, but it's about 21 to 42 minutes every single day, plus muscle strengthening exercises at least 2 to 3 days a week. That's kind of the general health recommendation. And then if you've got something that you're trying to do with your weight, you might need more than that. And so that's, they say now 28 to 42 minutes every single day. But people who have the National Weight Control Registry, which is a long-term registry of people who've lost weight and kept it off, which is only about 5% of the equation, they typically do at least 60 minutes a day of some type of activity. And they are very, very consistent in that. Resistance training obviously helps preserve lean body mass and that metabolism that we talked about. And then aerobic work is very potent for reducing fat mass. Resistance training preserves and increases lean mass, but combining them is often the best for your body composition and your waist circumference. And I will have to say that, shout out to BeFit, I saw Hal's amazing results, and the fact that my husband, who was a very focused snacker, really had no interest in a lot of the treats and sweets that he would snack on. And so I just, with half dose BeFit, have noticed my waist circumference has gone down, even though I sadly didn't measure. I can just feel it in my clothes, which a lot of people say they can feel. And so, when we talk about just the takeaways, how do we build sustainable weight loss? Because we don't want to be one of these statistics that we just, we lose it, but we can't keep it off. And so for that, my recommendation is really three things. Just do things that you can do long term. And consistency is really, really critical for that. Build the routines that you enjoy and you can do over and over again. And then also do the supplementation that you can commit to, that's affordable, that is within your budget, that is healthy for your body. And then when we set really small, achievable goals to maintain motivation, it's just little baby steps that are done consistently. And then, evaluate your wellness markers like your weight, your BMI, your lipids, your waist circumference, and your presidential fitness parameters, push-ups, chin-ups, and those kind of things. And I'm going to pause really quickly because I know Jenny Todd is on, and I wanted Jenny Todd to update us on her BeFit story before I move on. Jenny, can you do that? Are you there?
Yes, I am, and yes, I can. And well, Lisa, thank you for letting me share. But my journey with Be Fit, as everyone started losing weight with Be Fit, I was jealous, I just why am I not losing weight? Because y'all, I had 5 pounds to lose. I gained it, over the last year, and I just couldn't get it off. And it was just so frustrating because if you don't get 5 off, it's going to be 10 pretty soon, and on and on. So I just continued taking it, but I just had lab works drawn, and I want to say, first of all, after 3 months on Be Fit, that 5 pounds is gone, and I've maintained it for a week. Okay. Also, I've been genetically blessed from my dad a high cholesterol. My cholesterol has never, ever, ever been below 220. Sometimes it might dip to 200, never, ever below 220. And after this, my 3 months on Be Fit, I had labs drawn about 3 weeks ago, and my cholesterol was at 180. It's never, ever, ever, ever been at 180. So that's a very, very positive. And again, I go back to my sugar cravings. I do not want sugar. I've not had cookies, cake, candy bar. This BeFit is amazing, And as Lisa is talking about this exercise in here, you have to do a little something, little something. You got to do more than just take BeFit. It's not going to do the all the weightlifting for you, but just walk. That's all I do. I just walk. I just not motivate. But after listening to Lisa, I'm gonna get out in the garage and get these weights going out there. But I'm really, really pleased. So with my 5 pounds off, I don't want sugar anymore, and my cholesterol is at 180. Never ever been that way. So thank you for letting
That's
me share,
amazing.
Lisa.
That's amazing, Jenny. Thank you so much for
Uh-huh.
sharing that. And nobody would ever look at you and say, "Oh my gosh, she needs to lose 5 pounds." But so it's just you optimizing you. And
Right.
sometimes, you're the one that knows your body the best.
Right.
And seeing, not just now that you've been on it for 3 months. I mean, that's what's really, I want the takeaway to be for all of us who are helping coach people on Be Fit, especially women. Guys, women don't do what men do with weight loss. Like, we are bred for famine and pregnancy. And so we do not give up our fat mass without a lot of effort. And so, Jenny, it took her really 2 months plus for her body to release that 5 pounds, but there were internal changes going on with her cholesterol, and obviously rewiring her sugar cravings, and that was really impressive. And I don't know, is Connie Grease on tonight? We had a conversation today, and I told her, I said, Connie, I want you to write that down. I want you to tell everybody tonight. Are you there, Connie? She's she might. Oh, hang on a second. Somebody's chatting us up here. Hang on. Is that you? No, Susan. Susan Everett said my cholesterol went from 229 to 190 after 6 weeks. Hey, Susan, can you give us a little chuckle and tell us about the conversation with your doctor?
Yeah, it just so happened, for years he's complained to me that I needed to go onto a statin, and then his nurse has then followed up with a phone call. And when I refused, then they made me speak into recorder that I had refused. And so we've done this for at least 6 years. I've got records back 6 years. It's been well over 200. And matter of fact, well over, I think it got up to 250 one time, and he was going berserk. But anyway, so this time it goes to 190. crickets. I hear nothing from the doctor. And so I happened to have to go back in the doctor about something else this past week. And I gave him so much grief. I just said, "Hey, doc." And I basically went through that same story. And I said, "Hey, I hear nothing from you. No atta girls, no nothing. Don't want to know what I did and all that kind of stuff." And I said, "What is it with you?" And I was really giving him a hard time. I've known him for 35 years. So I was giving him a hard time. And he looked at the numbers and he goes, "Man, you're right. What did you do?" And so as soon as he said that, man, I gave him a whole spiel on Be Fit, and he asked me to bring him some information on it. But so it was fun to be able to have the opportunity to give him a hard time for a change.
That's awesome. Susan, I'm so proud of you for giving him a hard time. And, Western medicine, we need to slap them occasionally just to make sure that they understand that the prevention people rule. So thank you for that. So anyway, I was going to go back here. And so here's just something interactive that I would love your thoughts on. And you can post it in the chat. And we have a small call tonight. So you can also just let me know. But, we all have challenges with losing and maintaining weight loss. And I know Hal's sitting right here. I know what his has been. And, I think that is really what has been his key to how many pounds now, Hal Henson?
35.
35 pounds lost. Was his Achilles heel was not being able to give up the sugar and the flour. It just tasted too good. And so that's been his greatest challenge. And so what Be Fit has done, as Jenny described, is he has lost really interest in the sugar and the flour. He's been really able to adhere to his commitment to eliminate it and greatly minimize it. So, really has allowed his body to release that 35 pounds. And what I've seen is a transformed husband, and that he is just absolutely very consistent with his exercise, both cardio and strength training and stretching. And mowing the lawn, he's getting over 10,000 steps a day, and he was not able to do that because he was in a lot of pain before his knee surgery. So anybody else want to share your challenge in the past with weight loss? The question is, okay, Jenny said, that's fair. In the past, I managed stress with sugars. Me too, Jenny. I grew up in a house that had a dessert after every meal. And Mary says, this meeting explained my plate. Plateau.
Plateau. Yeah,
Plateau.
plate. That's funny though.
That is funny. Like there's a big difference, right?
But at the same time, they can have a great deal of reference to relevance to
That's
each other.
hysterical. You can tell that I've got stuff that's hanging over the words, but yeah, Mary, everyone plateaus. And another thing that I've learned and just observing, not just Be Fit, but just weight loss in general, it is not linear. And, people think that you're just going to lose, very, very regularly. And for the most part, Jean Workmeister has a confession to make. Jean, Jean says, I like beer. Jean, have you found any difference in how beer tastes with Be Fit, or does it still taste good?
Actually, it still tastes good, but I just drink a lot less. There, yeah, I think the last time I had a beer was probably 2 months ago.
Oh,
So,
that's a long time.
yeah, so somewhere right around in there. And matter of fact, Tim and Whit were in when we had it. We barbecued and had a couple beers, but yeah, it's been a while.
Well, I see Deborah Ray. Thank you for sharing that, Jean. That's just cracked me up. But Debbie Ray says, previous to Be Fit, menopause has put a stop to my weight loss in my middle, no matter what I did. And I think, Debbie, a lot of people can relate to that. I wanted to also add that Hal and I have a friend who she lives very close to a place where they have like big gulp Cokes, and she literally, you guys are going to think I'm lying, but I'm telling you her story. She would swing by 12 to 15 times a day and get a big gulp Diet Coke. And she's been on Be Fit 1 month, and she said that she might get a half of one a day, and that they really wondered if she was okay because the store, which she would be in there so many times. So that's another example. We've heard of beer, sugar and sweets, but that was the Diet Coke that just didn't taste right to her. And then let's see, Marcia says, definitely my biggest challenge was getting rid of menopausal weight gain when doing an office job. Amen, sister. It's been ongoing for the past 5 years, slowly over time with dietary changes, retirement, and improving self-care. And now Be Fit is helping to burn that fat. I like it. Thank you, Marcia. All right, so we're going to wrap this up real quickly here. Here's just kind of a sample activity program for those people who are interested in incorporating Be Fit and eating and walking and all the movement, but is just to take Be Fit 30 minutes before your first meal, have a protein-rich breakfast, and we've talked about that in our second session, and then take a post-meal walk. We do that for a lot of reasons, and we call that a postprandial walk. I walk Hal, usually after most meals, just because it helps to regulate blood sugar and it improves digestion. But you can walk, a mile in 10 to 15 minutes. Most people can. So that's your first mile in the day. And then midday, you want to make sure you stand every 30 minutes, right? 30 to 45 minutes, and have 2 to 3 movement snacks before meals. So that means instead of just waiting to do an hour of exercise, that we're moving through the day. And then 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times, you'll see the full body resistance training at least 30 to 45 minutes. We push, we pull, we hinge, we squat, we work our core, our balance, our back body, side body. And then weekly, we want to accumulate those 200 to 300 minutes of moderate movement that you enjoy, which is key in order for us to sustain it. So that's just a sample activity. Now, I want you to think of one simple way that you could add 1,000 more steps into your daily routine. How long is that? Like in relation to a mile, how long is 1,000 steps? Anybody know? A half a mile, Marcia Smith. You're so smart. So Mary says walk without the dogs. There you go. Adding 1,000 steps. Do you know that dog owners live longer? They actually walk more and they live longer. So like get a dog, right? That's one of the recommendations. And then how can you burn an extra 100 calories a day? You personally. Hal, we would just need to take one more lap around the neighborhood. Here's a chat. Park in the far parking spaces. That's great. And Mary said her dogs stop and look around too much. LOL. I've seen some of those dog walkers too. That's good. Park in the extra spot or the farther away spot. Here's another one. Take the steps, not the elevator. That's a really good one. Take the stairs. I like it. All right. So let me move back one. Okay, so here's the plan for the week. Pick one intentional action item that you're going to commit to this week. Write it down on, this is for you, and you're going to be specific. What are you going to do, when, and where? And then how confident are you in your ability to carry that out? Let us help you. And one of the things we've learned about Be Fit is that when you commit yourself to our team, you have a much higher likelihood of success with that program. It helps with accountability, the whole health team, and wiggle legs when sitting in meetings and classes. Yeah, that's good too. That's one of those neat categories. So our ask is just to help you with your whole health goals, which movement is a very core part of that. And you can write that down. And then just kind of in closing, every transformation demands as its precondition the ending of a world, the collapse of an old philosophy, and that's philosophy of life. That's Carl Jung. And I wanted to share that because that really spoke to me today, because what we're in the business of is transformation, and it's not just health transformation. And when I talked to Angie tonight, she said, it's not just about physical transformation, but she said, for me, before I could change my physical body, I had to have my whole mindset shift. And she goes, that is what I love as CEO of this company, is seeing what happens with whole mindset transformations and the physical transformation that follows it. And so we feel very, very honored to be part of that transformation for people. And so in conclusion, just a summary that movement is non-negotiable. If you're human, if you have a vertebrae, you need to move. And so we want to commit to learning to love it, to share it, and express gratitude for it. And explore different types of movement for your entire life. Are there movement programs in your neighborhood waiting for you? I looked at my enrollments, looked at my whole health collective that we kind of have created this tribe of people who really are committed to whole health. And I had at least 16 people through that collective that are using Zalise products. And so it's really a way to connect with people that are like-minded. And ask if BeFit is right for you. This affordable once-a-day plant powder can decrease hunger and cravings, provide sustainable energy, decrease inflammation, improve gut health, and connect you with a team that wants to help you achieve your goals. And so let me just finish with my contact information. We thank you so much for being part of our movement-based training as part of the Zalise BeFit transformation. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you and hear about any of the challenges that you're having with your whole health. And so I'm going to stop the recording here just a moment.